just feel so lost in life. I'm hurt. It was really hard for all of us. She was 9 months pregnant. That's not fair at all.
I was lost for words. I'm still lost. I feel there's no justice. No one want to feel this.
I'm gonna fight for her justice.
This is Vanessa Anderson, a 31-year-old mother of two from Racine, Wisconsin, who was 8 days away from giving birth to her third daughter when she was found beaten to death inside her apartment. But what I want you to know is that the man the prosecutor said did it just walked free.
Family of a pregnant woman killed in Racine say they are feeling heartbreak once again. The man charged with her homicide was found not guilty at trial.
But before we get to that verdict, let me take you back to the woman at the center of this story, because Vanessa Anderson was not just a case number, and the way this all started says a lot about how it ended. Vanessa Latrice Anderson was born on September 2nd, 1990 in Chicago, Illinois, the second youngest of 12 children. Her family eventually settled in Racine, Wisconsin, where she grew up, graduated from J.I. Case High School, and built her life. Everyone who knew her described the same woman: warm, loud in the best way, the kind of person who showed up to every family gathering first and was always the last one to leave.
She was one of a kind. She was her own individual. She was exactly the way she was supposed to be.
She had two daughters, Lanya and Java, both teenagers by the time their mother was killed, and family described Vanessa as someone who genuinely poured everything she had into those girls. Vanessa worked various jobs in the Racine area, had a head full of business ideas she wanted to turn into something real one day, and by October of 2021, she was just weeks away from welcoming a third daughter she had already named Dior. She was also, according to her family, the happiest she had been in a long time. She had just moved into a new apartment on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, near St. Patrick's Street, and had only been living there for less than 2 weeks. Her sister Lashunda described it as a period full of fresh starts and new energy, the kind of moment where life actually feels like it is turning a corner.
It was a lot of new beginnings for her that ended very shortly. She didn't deserve what happened to her. Nobody deserved that. She was in such a vulnerable state, being 9 months pregnant.
That fresh start never came. On the afternoon of October 8th, 2021, around 5:10 p.m., Vanessa's landlord came to check on her after she stopped responding, and what he found inside that apartment would launch a homicide investigation that would stretch on for more than 4 years and end in a verdict that stunned the entire community.
The family of a homicide victim in Racine tells Fox 6 she was 8 days from giving birth to her third child. Now, her loved ones are hoping for justice. Fox 6's Sam Kramer live outside of the Racine Police Department tonight. And Sam, police have not said yet how she was killed.
Yeah, hi there, Mary. All detectives here have said is that they found a 31-year-old woman dead inside an apartment on Friday. Tonight, the family of Vanessa Anderson says she was stabbed inside her apartment, as they're hoping whoever's responsible is held accountable.
We would talk, we would share food recipes, we would just, we really lived in that moment.
Behind her tears Sunday afternoon, Lashunda Anderson says the pain is powerful now that her younger sister, 31-year-old Vanessa Anderson, is gone.
I can't describe it because it hurts so bad.
Just after 5 o'clock Friday, Racine police say they took a call of a woman found dead inside an apartment on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive near the intersection with St. Patrick's Street. Police did not identify the victim, but said they were investigating her death as a homicide. On Sunday, Lashunda says her sister's landlord found her stabbed to death inside her home.
She was in her apartment naked, and he said it was blood everywhere.
She says Vanessa was just over a week away from giving birth to her third child, who she says also died. Now Anderson hopes whoever's responsible for her sister's death will be held accountable.
What if it was your sister? What if it was your auntie? What if it was your daughter? That somebody murdered 9 months pregnant, and then you will want someone to speak up. So speak up and do what's right.
There were pools of dried blood across the floor, overturned furniture, broken household items, a mop bucket in the bathroom, and blood-soaked washcloths alongside a container of baby wipes, both completely drenched, sitting in the sink. That last detail mattered because it meant whoever did this had tried to clean up before leaving. The scene had all the signs of a prolonged, violent struggle, and Vanessa's unborn daughter, Dior, who was scheduled to arrive via C-section just 10 days later on October 18th, did not survive either. The medical examiner ruled the cause of death as blunt force trauma, even though early media reports described the injuries as stab wounds. There were puncture injuries, but investigators believed those came from items found at the scene, specifically a broom handle and a pair of scissors that were recovered from the apartment. As for Dior, she died from a loss of oxygen that was a direct result of the injuries her mother sustained. 2 lives ended inside that apartment that night. One woman who had been living for 31 years and one little girl who never got the chance to take a single breath. Police launched a homicide investigation immediately, but no arrest was made for 8 months. During that time, investigators were quietly building a case around someone who had been in Vanessa's life in a way he had been very careful to keep hidden. His name was William C. Bunch, 43 years old at the time, a Racine resident who had been in what prosecutors described as a toxic extramarital relationship with Vanessa. The key word there is extramarital because William Bunch was already married to another woman, and that marriage was at the center of everything. When police first questioned him, Bunch acknowledged having a sexual relationship with Vanessa but flatly denied being the father of her unborn child, telling investigators that his wife would leave him if the truth ever came out. That statement alone tells you exactly where his priorities were, and it also gave prosecutors a clear picture of his motive. Post-mortem DNA testing later confirmed that Bunch was in fact the biological father of the baby Vanessa had been carrying, making his denial fall completely apart. But the DNA was not even the most damaging piece of evidence prosecutors had, because there was also a witness. According to the criminal complaint, a witness came forward and told police that in the days before Vanessa was killed, Bunch had asked them for a crowbar so he could break into her apartment and, in his own words, take care of the situation. The witness refused, but what they told investigators next was even more alarming. Bunch had allegedly said that Vanessa was threatening to ruin his life and that his wife would leave if the pregnancy became public knowledge. That same witness also reported that on the night of the murder, Bunch had deliberately left his phone at home so it could not ping any cell towers near her apartment. What made the witness's account especially hard to dismiss was the level of detail they had. They described specifics about the crime scene, including blood patterns and cleanup attempts that had never been released to the public. The only way to know those things was to have been inside that apartment or to have heard about it directly from someone who was. When police brought Bunch in for questioning, he denied having anything to do with the murder, but the way he carried himself during that interview was hard to ignore. He was described as evasive and nervous, sweating heavily and breathing hard the entire time. And while he tried to use GPS data from his phone as an alibi to prove he was elsewhere that night, that argument had already been undercut by the witness who told investigators he had intentionally left the device at home. Beyond this case, Bunch also had a prior criminal history. A robbery conviction had made him a felon, and in 2010 he was arrested after police found a stolen handgun in his vehicle during a traffic stop, a charge he eventually pleaded no contest to. On June 24, 2022, 8 months after Vanessa and Dior were killed, William Bunch was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, one for Vanessa and one for her unborn child, with both charges enhanced by the use of a dangerous weapon and each carrying a mandatory life sentence. His bond was set at $1 million cash.
In June 2022, her boyfriend, 46-year-old William Bunch, was arrested and charged. Family hoped they could begin to heal.
For Vanessa's family, that arrest felt like the first step towards something that looked like justice. In August of 2022, Bunch entered a not guilty plea, and then the waiting began. The trial did not happen quickly, and the delays were not minor. In October of 2023, the trial was pulled from the calendar entirely after defense attorney Patrick Cafferty withdrew from the case, citing a conflict of interest because he had previously represented a witness the prosecution planned to call. It was the second time an attorney had stepped off the case for exactly the same reason, and at that point, the case had already been dragging on for over 2 years with no end in sight. For a family that had been waiting since October of 2021, every new delay felt like another wound. By the time the trial finally began in early February of 2026, Vanessa Anderson had been dead for more than 4 years. Her daughters Lanya and Java, who were 12 and 13 years old when they lost their mother, were now young adults walking into a courtroom, still waiting for someone to answer for what happened. The trial itself lasted 5 days. Prosecutors laid out their case built almost entirely on circumstantial evidence, the DNA confirmation of paternity, the motive of a married man desperate to protect his secret, the witness testimony about the crowbar request and the deliberately left behind phone, and the non-public crime scene details that witness had somehow known. Bunch's nervous and evasive behavior during the police interview was also part of the presentation, and taken together, prosecutors argued it all pointed to a man who had planned this carefully and then tried to cover his tracks. The defense had one clear and consistent counter to all of it. There was no direct physical evidence, no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing forensic placing Bunch inside that apartment at the time of the assault. The witness was the backbone of the entire prosecution, and without something concrete tying Bunch physically to the scene, the defense argued the jury simply could not meet the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. On February 10, 2026, the jury returned a not guilty verdict on both counts, and William Bunch walked out of that courthouse a free man.
Last week, his trial began. After 5 days, it ended in a way the Andersons did not anticipate.
I was lost for words. I'm still lost.
A jury found Bunch not guilty, acquitting him in the stabbing death of Vanessa and her unborn baby.
I feel there's no justice.
The Anderson family says they are confused and deeply saddened, not understanding how this happened.
No one want to feel this.
For the family, it felt like losing Vanessa all over again.
It's not fair.
For the last 5 years, Lanaya and Jabe Anderson have experienced pain 2 young girls never should.
I just feel so lost in life. I'm hurt.
They've been grieving the loss of their mother.
Her daughters, who had already spent years grieving a loss that never made sense, now had to sit with the fact that no one would ever be held criminally responsible for what happened to their mother or their baby sister. Sister Evelyn told reporters she was lost for words and still lost, and Lashunda, who had been speaking for this family since the very first night outside the apartment where Vanessa had barely finished unpacking, was not about to go quiet now.
I'm going to fight for her justice. We're gonna get justice.
The family announced plans to pursue a civil wrongful death lawsuit against Bunch and was actively searching for an attorney at the time of reporting. A criminal acquittal does not close the door on a civil case, and the standard of proof in civil court is meaningfully lower than what is required for a criminal conviction, so the family still has a path forward even after everything that happened in that courtroom. What happened to Vanessa and Dior was not an isolated incident, and that is the part that should make everyone uncomfortable. This exact pattern, a married man fathering a child with someone outside his marriage and then deciding the pregnancy is a problem he needs to permanently remove, has played out in courtrooms across the country. The difference is that sometimes the evidence is there to prove it, and sometimes it is not. In Fort Pierce, Florida, in August of 2018, a 23-year-old woman named Tanya Wise was 38 weeks pregnant when she disappeared after leaving her home to get drinks for her young son. Her body was found the next day face down in a roadside drainage ditch, having suffered blunt force trauma to the head and a 19-centimeter cut across her neck. Her unborn son, Josiah, did not survive.
Just in, detectives in St. Lucie County say the body of Tanya Wise was found earlier today. Her body discovered in a ditch at Johnston and Rousseau Roads. Detectives are asking anyone who may have been in contact with this 23-year-old in the last few days to call Treasure Coast Crime Stoppers.
The responsible was Jose Antonio Soto Escalera, a married garbage truck driver who had been having a 2-month affair with Tanya and was confirmed through DNA testing to be the father of her unborn child. Just like in Vanessa's case, prosecutors argued his motive was the fear of losing everything if his wife found out. He had even given Tanya money for an abortion, and when she didn't go through with it, his anger escalated into something irreversible.
We're on top of breaking news in St. Lucie County. An arrest has been made in the murder of a pregnant mother.
The sheriff says the father of the unborn child in this case is responsible. Let's get right to News Channel 5's Ann Sterling, who just got an update from the sheriff. Ann?
That's right, Shannon. The body of 23-year-old Tanya Wise was discovered 28 days ago now. She was nearly 9 months pregnant at the time. Moments ago, St. Lucie County Sheriff Ken Mascara announcing the father of the unborn baby, Jose Soto Escalera, has been arrested and is now facing 2 counts of murder. The young mother's body was discovered in a ditch by a person that was passing by in northwest St. Lucie County.
We know that he was the father of the baby. We know that she had some other individuals in her life, men in her life. We don't know if jealousy was a motive. We don't know if there was other motives involved, but that's what we know.
Sheriff Mascara confirming DNA was used to help solve this case. The sheriff adding that Soto Escalera was transported just moments ago now to jail, and the sheriff says he was not remorseful.
The difference between this case and Vanessa's was the evidence. Investigators had audio recordings captured from Soto Escalera's work truck where he could be heard discussing plans to kill Tanya, cell phone tracking data, surveillance footage, and DNA from her blood found inside his vehicle. The jury deliberated for roughly 1 hour before finding him guilty, and on October 10, 2025, a judge sentenced him to death for both murders.
Conclusion: after the weighing process, the court has carefully weighed the aggravating and mitigating circumstances as to each murder individually. The court's weighing process can be summarized as follows. As to Tanya Wise, there are 2 aggravating factors that are entitled to very great weight. As to the unborn child, there are 3 aggravating factors that are entitled to very great weight. As to the mitigating factors, the cumulative weight of the mitigation is entitled to moderate to great weight. As to each murder, the court finds that the aggravating factors outweigh the mitigating circumstances. As required by law, this court has given great weight to the jury's recommendation. The court's weight analysis in this case, with its acknowledgement of significant yet outweighed mitigation, is a reflection of the jury's 8-4 vote for death as to each of the murders. The court's independent evaluation of the case herein leads to the conclusion that the death sentence is the appropriate and just sentence as to each victim. Therefore, Jose Soto Escalera, I hereby sentence you to death for the first-degree murder of Tanya Wise. I also independently sentence you to death for the first-degree murder of her unborn child. I hereby order that you be taken by the Sheriff of St. Lucie County to Florida State Prison for close and secure confinement until the date of your execution. At such time as scheduled by the Governor of the State of Florida, at the place of execution named in his warrant of execution, you shall be put to death by the means provided by Florida law at that time, and may God have mercy on your soul. You are hereby notified that the sentence of death is subject to automatic review by the Supreme Court of Florida. The court finds you continue to be indigent and hereby appoints the office of the public defender to represent you on appeal. And that is the sentence of the court, and that will end this case. Thank you all.
2 pregnant women, 2 married men, the same motive, but completely opposite outcomes in court, and the only real difference was what the investigators were able to physically prove. That contrast is what makes the Anderson case so hard to close the book on, because the question of what actually happened on that October night in Racine remains officially unanswered. Bunch's attorney declined to comment after the verdict, and the Racine County District Attorney's Office did not respond to press inquiries. No other suspects have ever been publicly named or identified, and as of today, the murders of Vanessa Anderson and her unborn daughter Dior remain officially unsolved, with no new investigation publicly announced. Vanessa had also reportedly received death threats in the period before she was killed, something her sister LaShunda mentioned in that very first interview outside the apartment where Vanessa had barely finished unpacking. Those threats were never publicly traced to a source, were never made central to the prosecution's case, and remain a loose thread that no one has pulled on since. Vanessa Anderson was 31 years old with 2 daughters who needed her, a baby girl on the way, and a life she was just beginning to rebuild. Whatever truly happened on the night of October 8, 2021, she deserved far better than this, and so did Dior. What do you think about this case? Do you think Bunch killed Vanessa? Let me know in the comments section. Also, click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this. See you in the next one.